Thank you very much, Faculty of Engineering Technology, Open University of Sri Lanka, for inviting me for this very important event, especially the Vice Chancellor, the Deans, and all the staff here. I know Dr. Madhurapuram for a long time. So I know it's a topic is on making a green world through innovation, right? I think that's a topic that is for this conference this year. You know, we are coming out of a very tough period, 2 years in isolation due to COVID. So just now we have thought about coming out and getting back to that normal situation, right? So I think there's a lot of learnings that we learned during that 2 years, or rather 1.5 years. Some of the things actually we wouldn't have learned maybe over a period of 10 years, but we learned a lot of things in a very quick fashion because of the entire world went into a a different situation because of COVID. So let me give you some idea about I think this word innovations coming up everywhere, the green world coming up everywhere. So let me give you a very brief introduction about, or a definition, identification of what is innovation, right? And also the Vice Chancellor also mentioned whether we should consider more important whether it's the innovation or the creativity. It's another very important topic. So what is innovation? A lot of people use these words at different forums, but a lot of people don't understand the real meaning of innovation. That's what I learned, especially in university students. Word innovation need to be well defined. A lot of people think so I'll ask a question. So one of my organization, now when I explain, maybe you can answer that. One of my startups, we started about 5 years ago, called Gendo Innovations. It was actually started with one of the final year projects at University of Moratuwa. We picked that project and we took it in a like a cycle. It was on biomedical engineering product. So what we wanted to do was, the weather mahatya, right? Hela vedakame in a weather mahatya. So he does a remarkable thing. So when you come to a weather mahatya, he will just take your pulse from here and describe entire your health, right? Not just the health of your hand, right? But he gives various parts of your body, your kidney or wherever there's an issue, he will identify from this pulse. So we were fascinated with this. Can't we do a scientifically identify whether this is actually possible? Scientifically, whether we can prove using the pulse, can we identify diseases in your body? So that was the question that we had. So this is not me, actually a team of undergraduates from University of Moratuwa, which I supported from the initial stage. And then we actually came up with a model using, I think you know this pulse oximeter, right? Which is widely used in because of even COVID, just to identify the blood oxygen concentration and all those figures. We took a signal from a normal pulse oximeter and we sent it to a like signal processor. And then we picked some unusual signals out of it, and also we did a lot of artificial intelligence programming algorithm behind that. And we came up with a model that you can identify cardiovascular diseases, cardiovascular diseases inside you, just looking at that pulse. So this particular technology we patented about 3 years ago. We filed the patents for in US about 3 years ago. In fact, 6 months ago, we got the US patent for that. And within a month's time, we will get the Japanese patent as well, that for the product. We actually tested that product about 800 patients, mainly at RCB hospitals and also Colombo General Hospitals. We have the figures of about 800 patients now. It's an AI algorithm, so the more you test, your results become better. It's a learning algorithm. So that's the status of the product. We have published articles in the world #1 biomedical journal also on this research. There's about 6 engineers working in this particular startup. So we have a product. We have not only one prototype. We have done about 10 different prototypes, improved each and every time. Now my question is it innovation? Whether is it innovation or not? Can you tell me? We have developed a product, got the patents, not only Sri Lanka, we got the US patent. We are getting the Japanese patent as well. We have trained the product using about 800 patients in 3 hospitals. Is it an innovation or not? Atusan ban innovation එකක් කියලා කියන ඔව් කියන අතුස්සා 1 2 3 innovation එකක් නෙමෙයි කියලා කියනවා 1 2 3 so that in between there's a lot of people, right? Undecided. So remember, don't mix up the two words invention and innovation, right? Invention is something new to the world, right? If it is something new, whether people use it or not, it's an invention. But innovation, remember, innovation is more difficult than invention. Something new has to go to the market. People should start using that product. So we have not come up to that level. After 5 years of hard work, still the product is not available for normal public. Of course, if you go to RC hospital, I can get the test done for any of you. So that we can do. But the product is not out yet, because biomedical engineering, these health services, there's a lot of red tapes. We have to go through NMRA, we have to go through FDA. There's a lot of process that need to be. We have started that process. So within probably 6 months to 1 year, we can make that product open for not only Sri Lanka, but even US market as well. But until such time, we are not innovators in that product yet. So that's what you have to understand. Innovation, the game of innovation is not easy. If you think you can create innovation within a day or 2 or even a month, that's not a job for an innovator. Innovations are not that easy as possible. So this theme that we are talking about today is making a green world through innovations or something in that line. If you want to do it, you can't do it within a day, like having a conference like this today, right? It's a long process. That's what you have to understand. You have to dedicate entire lifetime if you want to make this green world or whatever that you expect, and create that innovations. So innovation is a lot of hard work. Now I think the Vice Chancellor also mentioned, I think it's the same thing that he mentioned. In the global innovation index, we are 104. We are actually backbenchers. We have to be very ashamed of where we are, even though we have so much of engineers coming out of universities, so many scientists coming out of universities. We have to be ashamed, because out of 131 countries, we are 104. අපිට පල්ලෙහාන් ඉන්නේ සාමාන්‍යයෙන් ඔය අප්‍රිකාවේ රටවල් ටිකක්, දකුණු ඇමරිකාවේ දුප්පත් රටවල් ටිකක්, ආසියාවේ තියෙන දුප්පත් රටවල් ටිකක් අපිට පල්ලෙහාන් ඉන්නවා. We can't be happy of that. We are a country with 2,500 years of written history, and our predecessors, they created real innovations, right? Those are real innovations, right? But this is 2,000 years ago we did. But my idea is not to talk about those history, but what about us? What about current Sri Lankans, right? Are we really innovative enough? If you are not innovative enough, it's not because we don't have the knowledge, not because we don't have the other resources, right? A lot of people say that we don't have resources, right? We are we are born in one of the most wonderful countries, so much of resources, right? But the problem is that innovations are not coming out of this country the way that we wanted. උදාහරණයක් ගත්තොත් අපි කීල්ස් එකට ගියොත් බඩු ගන්න අපි යුනිවර්සිටි එකකින් ආපු ප්‍රොඩක්ට්ස් 100ක් තියෙනවද කීල්ස් එක ඇතුලේ? හරි? made in University of XYZ කියලා කියන්න පුළුවන් ප්‍රොඩක්ට්ස් 100ක් තියෙනවද යුනිවර්සිටි එක ඇතුලේ? එකක්වත් නෑ මොකක් කරලා, right? මට බය නැතුව කියන්න පුළුවන් උගලට එකක්වත් නෑ, right? So what's the point of science? Doing science and innovations in universities? The idea is innovations are not coming out. So problem is not about the expertise or the knowledge. Knowledge is everywhere. Even a university, why we call it, we have so much of collection of academics to resources, all that. But things are not coming out. Where is the problem? That's what we need to look at. So why things are not coming out? Because people think innovations are easy. Doing something අර මොකක් හරි එකක් අමුල්ලා ෆයිනල් ඉයර් ප්‍රොජෙක්ට් එකක වුණත් මොකක් හරි එකක් අමුල්ලා නේද මෙහෙම එකක් දැම්මම අපිත් කරයි කාලේ හරි මොකක් හරි අමුල්ලා මේක එහා පැත්තෙන් ලයිට් එකක් පත් වෙනකොට මේක ඉනෝවේෂන් එකක් කියලා තමයි කියන්නේ, but it's wrong, right? There's a lot more to innovations. Innovation is a huge topic, right? And if you have to dedicate your lifetime to, if you really want to create innovations, if you don't do that, even after say 20, 30 years or later also, maybe when your children comes to universities, I'm talking to students, very proudly, we are 115th in the Global Innovation Index, right? That will never change, right? And don't expect that the president of the country or the the ministers of the country or the whatever the 225 in the parliament will change this country. It will never happen unless you change the country, right? So it's up to you. Only I think you have heard this topic, right? Innovations and entrepreneurship is the engine of a economy, right? අපේ ආර්ථිකය වැඩි දියුණු කරන්න පුළුවන් මේ innovations නවෝත්පාදන නව නිර්මාණ නෙමෙයි. There's a difference between inventions and innovation. නවෝත්පාදන සහ ව්‍යවසායකත්වයට තමයි රටක් දියුණු කරන්න පුළුවන්. That's the engine of growth. So if that doesn't come out of universities, if that doesn't come out of the young generation, nothing will happen. So I didn't come to green world yet, right? I'm just trying to understand what is innovation. So if you can't promote innovation, if the innovation doesn't come out of universities, there's a big problem. If you look at anywhere in the world, so I got this chance very recently, about a month ago, I had a 2 months tour in US in 8 cities, all funded by another organization in USA. So I got the chance to visit various places in USA where there is a change happened. So I specifically wanted, I don't want to go to cities like New York, Boston, maybe San Francisco. Those cities are like olden cities developed many years ago during the Yankees time, right? But I wanted few cities that were changed in the last 10 to 20 years, and what happened, why it was happened, what was the thinking behind. So there's one city I went to, a city called Raleigh, which is in North Carolina. It's one of the states in the middle of, on the East Coast, but not up there, but with southern, one of the southern cities. And this particular city was very traditional city. 20 years ago, if you go to North Carolina, you will see loggers, hunters, farmers, all these kind of traditional Americans were living, right? But today, that's one of the fastest growing cities in the world, right? And fastest, of course, one of the fastest in the US. Still, property values are still cheap, so people are coming. I mean, when I was there, there was a 100,000 housing scheme. 100,000. Remember, 100,000 houses are coming to one place. Google already decided to bring one of their offices to that particular city. Apple decided to bring one of their main headquarters into that city, and there's one of the fastest growing cities. Then when I studied that, I saw there's this particular concept called research triangle, which was started about 20 years ago, 20 or 25 years ago, right? Based out of 3 universities. So this particular state has 3 main universities. One university is called NC State, one of the oldest US public universities, state universities, which is in Raleigh town. Then the next town is called Durham, which housed one of the finest private universities called Duke University. Then there's third one called Chapel Hill, which is like bit like Peradeniya. The city or the town itself is a university. So it's a very nice environment. You don't call, there's no town, university itself is a town. So 3 universities, very close proximity, about 20 kilometers proximity. 20 kilometers in USA is like, like 10 minutes, right? So that's called the research triangle. And this particular research triangle is the reason behind this sudden growth of North Carolina as one of the most innovative areas in the entire world. So this is what a university could do, right? This is what a collection of universities could do. So innovations, all these things, wherever it happened based out of a university or a university town. That, no question about it. Of course, then industry comes, industry take it to the next level. That's another thing. But where it starts, all the time there's a university behind it. So I think we have, I don't know, about 20 to 30 universities in Sri Lanka. That's more than enough to change this country. But only thing is we need a total mindset change, not just the academics, but we need the entire students, especially the young generation has to think, because when you enter university, maybe at the age of 18 or 19, in Sri Lanka, maybe a bit later, but say it's 19 to 23 or 24, that is your golden age. You won't get that age again. අවුරුදු 20 ඉඳන් 24ට එන වයස ඒ කාලේ ඔයගලන්ට ආයෙන්නේ නැහැ. That is the most, because when you are very young, like 10 to 15, you can't do much also because you are dependent on your parents. But 20 to 25, you don't have to be dependent on your parents. And if you are still dependent on your parents, you have something wrong somewhere. You should be able to find your own money by now. While even in the university, you should work something, get some, petty cash or whatever, and should be able to earn, start earning. It's something wrong somewhere, right? If you go to any of the developed countries, gathering in the bay, you have to go out, right? That's the way. So you have to be, I won't say that you should be 100% dependent, but at least there should be some way of getting money so that you can be independent. So this particular 4 years, if you can't come up with innovations, you will never come up with innovation in your life. Remember that. නවෝත්පාදන වගේ දේවල් මේ වයසේදී කරන්න බැරි නම් ඔයගොල්ලන්ට කවදාත් කරන්න වෙන්නේ නැහැ. හිතන්න එපා දැන් මට රස්සාවක් හම්බෙලා හොඳට සල්ලි එනකොට මම නවෝත්පාදන කරන්නම් කියලා. ඒක කවදාත් වෙන්නේ නැහැ. right? මම හොඳට සල්ලි ටිකක් වාගෙන මේ එක තැනකට ආවට පස්සේ මම නවෝත්පාදන කරන්නම් කියලා ඒක කවදාත්ම වෙන්නේ නැහැ. Unless you start now. This is the best time for you to do innovations. Whether it's a green belt or wherever, if you want to do innovations, you have to start now. This is the best time. And if you lose this, you will never get it. So what do you have to do to make innovations? Now, I'm still not come to green part, but I want to see that, whether it's a green world or whatever, innovations that need to change it, right? Again, remember, innovations is not a techie thing. Innovations give me hari technology කතාවක් කියන්නේ අපිට මේ දැන් මේ කම්පියුටර් ගැන දන්නේ නැතු innovations කරන්න බෑ කියලා නෑ. Innovations කියන එක කරන්න technology දැනගන්න ඕනේ නෑ. Even without no technology you can do innovations. Right? Have you heard about the innovations in thinking process? මිනිස්සු හිතන දේ වෙනස් කරත් it's innovation. Right? අපි හිතනවා නම් අපි හිතන් ඉන්න විදියට වඩා වෙනස් විදියට වැඩක් කරන්න it could be innovation. I'll give you one example. In lot of products that you use, for example, say Wikipedia, right? Then there's product called Firefox. But the products this concept of product which is seemingly free, even say Facebook, right? Free product again. But actually what they have done is they have done an entire difference in the thinking process. Of course, there's a product behind it. But they are selling a product which is free, right? Actually, it's not free. There's somebody who's paying for everything. But this entire thinking process of giving things free, right? Even Android, right? Android is a free product, right? All this is a concept. It's a different concept altogether. So that's the innovation in itself. Right? It's not a tangible product, but this thinking process of we can offer something free for a certain period of time, and then you can create wealth. Example, WhatsApp, right? WhatsApp වල ඔයගොල්ලෝ ගෙවනවද සාමාන්‍ය WhatsApp use කරා? හැම එකනා WhatsApp use කරනවා. කීයක් ගෙවනවද මාසෙකට? සතයක් වගේ ගෙවන්නේ නැහැ නේ. Of course, data වලට යනවා, but other than that, we are not paying for WhatsApp. But 3 years ago, it was sold at $19 billion. ලංකාවේ GDP එකෙන් 4න් එකකට. Right? ලංකාවේ වගේ 4ක් වුණා ලංකාව සල්ලි වල ගන්න පුළුවන්. Right? So that's the value that they created. Seemingly a product which is free of charge. So that's an entirely change in the entire way of thinking. Right? So that also could be something, right? You don't have to create a product, tangible product. So that's, I would say maybe started because of creativity, right? Of course, creativity won't come up with a product. Creativity may be the starting point of all this innovations to even inventions to all that. So you need to be very creative. If you want to be creative, what is the golden rule? Even innovation is the same. මෙතන ඉන්නේ මං හිතන්නේ මන් දන්නේ මොන කට්ටිය ඉන්නවද කියලා say මෙතන ඉන්නේ civil engineering කරන්න නැහැ කියලා හිතන්න. මෙතන ඉන්නේ I'm giving example, right? Don't say මෙතන ඉන්නේ civil engineering කරන students 10 දෙනෙක් නම් can we get creativity out of 10 civil engineering students? Very difficult. මෙතෙන්ට අපි දැම්මොත් එහෙම arts කරන students 10 දෙනෙකුයි civil engineering කරන 10 දෙනෙකුයි. That's a difference. එතන තව science කරන 10 දෙනෙකුත් ගෙනාවා. තව 10 දෙනෙක් අපි තුමු IT කරන 10 දෙනෙක්, තව 10 දෙනෙක් music කරන 10 දෙනෙක්. මම කියන්නේ music arts කරන අය විතරයි creativity කියන්නේ. creativity තියෙන හැමතැනම. But when you mix these people only, you get the creativity. Even innovations, what they say is, the mama say I'm an expert in electronics engineering, I will never be able to do innovations if I'm just an expert of electronics engineering. You need to mix, because electronics engineering itself, you can't come up with a product and make a කවුරු හරි කියනවා නම් මේක ඉලෙක්ට්‍රොනික්ස් එන්ජිනියරින් හදපු දෙයක් කියලා බොරුවන්නේ. Electronics තියෙන බොහොම පොඩ්ඩයි. Right? There's a lot of other things. Even this is materials engineering, right? This is one of the best materials engineering innovations in the world. Of course, Apple did it, right? Now everyone is copying, right? Yes, I'm talking about the glass, right? Vidurama hadena bawetta, but at least there's a lot of things that you can do, right? And this shape. ඉස්සර කාලේ අර මේක කොහොම කරලා ඇද්දාම ඇන්ටනාවක් තිබ්බනේ මට ඉස්සර ෆෝන් එක. දැන් මේ ඇන්ටනාව කො? මේක. ඒක නැද්ද ඇන්ටනාවක් නැතුවද මේක වැඩ කරන්නේ? මේක ඇතුලේ ඇන්ටනාවක් තියෙනවා. ඇන්ටනාවක් තියෙනවා මේ රවුමට දාපු ඇන්ටනාවක් තියෙනවා, right? So that's design, right? That's called design engineering, which is the fundamental thing that, I mean, design comes with arts and all the other things, right? So if you look at any product which is globally world class, it's not somebody who one person with one knowledge who did it. There's a lot of people behind this with different skill set, right? Then creativity කියන එක හදන්න නම් මේ different skill set කියන එක තියෙනවා. ඒ skill set එක මෙතන යුනිවර්සිටි එකක් ඇතුලේ ක්‍රියාත්මක වෙන්නේ නැත්නම් innovations will not come out. ඔයගොල්ලෝ යුනිවර්සිටි එකේ වැඩ කරන්නේ එකම ෆීල්ඩ් එකේ science students එකට නම් technology students එකට නම් innovations නම් එළියට එන්නේ නැහැ. ඔළුවෙන් හිටගෙන කරත් එන්නේ නැහැ. But if you make sure that faculty of engineering students works with faculty of arts students works with faculty of law students works with, if you create that environment, that is what you call a university. University, the definition of university is that a mix එක එන්න ඕන. Right? Even if you call it a technology university, still you need to have that mix, at least different fields. So that's one of the fundamental things. University එකට ඔයගොල්ලෝ ඇවිල්ලා ඔයගොල්ලෝ ඉගෙන ගන්නේ say agriculture technology විතර නම් ඒත් වැඩක් නෑ. ඔයගොල්ලෝ ඉගෙන ගන්න medical college එකට ඇවිල්ලා නම් medical විතරක් නෑ ඉගෙන ගන්න. Innovations එළියට ආපන්ට you can be a doctor, right? But innovations නම් එළියට එන්නේ නෑ. Now if you take this vaccination, right? කවුද කියන්නේ vaccinations හොයාගත්තේ doctors ලා කියලා? Doctors හොයාගත්තේ නෑ vaccinations. කවුද vaccinations හොයාගත්තේ? Engineers ළම 5000ක් විතර ඉන්නවා vaccination හොයාගත්ත process එක. Right? තව ගොඩාක් එක experts ලා ගොඩාක් එකතු වෙලා තමයි මේක හොයාගත්තේ. So especially the vaccination business, you need to have a lot of data, right? You have to analyze data, you have to do a lot of algorithms, right? So there are even computer programmers in that entire process of getting, say, AstraZeneca out to the market, right? Then you need to have the business. All these people has to get together. අපේ වෙන්නේ නැත්තේ මේ team work එක එනවා අඩුයි. That's one of the primary reasons why we don't see a lot of innovations coming out, right? මම මේ පොඩි මේකක් දෙන්නේ අපි if you are going to do green world, right, it's the same is applied. Now I will give you a few examples because I got the chance to present about what I did on Turu. So what we did Turu was actually, it was so from the age of 14-15 I used to be a hiker. by හැම ලංකාවේ තියෙන හැම කන්දක් වගේ මම ගිහිලා තිනවා නොගිය කඳු තියෙනවා නම් බොහොම පොඩ්ඩයි, right? And then there was this mountain, I don't know, maybe you also travel, called Bambarakanda. So Bambarakanda ඇල්ලේ ගිහිල්ලා එක එක තැන් වලට යන්න බෑ. There's 3 steps in Bambarakanda. We camped in all these 3 steps, right? ඒක සැරයක් මට මතකයි in the year 2000 I used to camp in this particular waterfall. වතුර එනවා හොඳට. I'm talking about a particular period of the time. වතුර හොඳට එනවා. Then in 2015 also I traveled to the same place, right? I didn't camp that time, but I came to the same place. වතුර දියැල තියෙනවා එකම කාලේ. ලොකු ප්‍රශ්නයක් මට පේනවා වතුර නැහැ. This is 15 years period, right? I'm not talking about like 100 years or whatever. So because I saw it in 15 years time, same time, same place, there's a drastic reduction of the water. So if you want to see something coming out, you have to see a problem. So I saw a problem. Then ඊට පස්සේ මම කරේ අපි කට්ටිය ගිහලා උඩට ගියා. අන්ද උඩට නැග්ගා මම දැක්කා මට හොඳට මතකයි ඒ දවස්වල හොඳට ඇවිද්දපු තැනනේ. ඒ වෙනදා තිබ්බට වඩා වෙනස් ඒ පැත්ත. So for example, there have a lot of houses built. අර පොඩි line කාමර වගේ ගොඩක් built කරලා. There was forest patch is clear කරලා එතන එළවලු වවනවා. Nothing wrong with it. කියන්න පුළුවන් nothing wrong with it. ගස් ටික කපලා එතන තව මොනවා හරි වවනවනේ ප්‍රශ්නයක් නැහැ. And there's a lot of areas clear. ඊට පස්සේ අපිට ඒකට තේරෙනවා there's something wrong somewhere. 6 months later I came again on a rainy period. වැස්ස දවසේ එනකොට මම දැක්කා දියැල්ල වතුර වෙනද කවදාවත් දැකුව නැති වෙනකොට වතුර වැටෙනවා. මේ කවදාවත් මෙච්චර වතුර මම දැකලා නැහැ බඹරකන්තේ. In a 20-30 years of history. නිකන් වතුරක් නෙමෙයිනේ වතුරේ නේ අර බොර පාටට. So what's happening, right? අර ඔක්කොම forest patch එක clear කරලා දැන් වතුර වහිනකොට වතුර වෙනදාට වඩා වතුර එනවා. මොකද වෙනදා වතුර ආපහු උරනවා පොළොවට. දැන් පොළොවට උරන්නේ අර තියෙන පස් ටිකත් එක්ක හොදගෙන දියල්ලත් දිගේ පල්ලයට යනවා. So this whole climate change we talks about, right? මේ දේශගුණික විපර්යාස කියන කතාව is nothing new, right? It's evident in your own eyes. වාගේ පරම්පරාවේ දෙක තුනක් යනකම් ඉන්න ඕනේ to see the real results of a climate change. It will happen in your lifetime for sure. Now, one of the things I will give you some figures, right? You talks about billions of dollars. You talks about a lot of things. Now, when it comes to climate change, people don't talk in $1 billion. දැන් ලංකාවට රුපියල් බිලියනයක් නැහැ කියලා දැන් කෑ ගහන්නේ නේ. හරි? රුපියල් බිලියනයක් හොයාගන්න බෑ කියලා දසාතේ කල්පනා කරනවනේ කට්ටිය. When it comes to climate change, people don't talk in billions. People talk in trillions of dollars. Remember, රුපියල් ට්‍රිලියන කියන්නේ 1.12ක්. 1.12 තමයි පටන් ගන්නේ climate change. Now, for example, I'll give you one example. US economy is $30 trillion. ලංකාව economy කීයද? 80 billion විතර තමයි කියන්නේ 100 billion කියලා කියනවා. I still think it's about 80 billion, right? 80 billion US dollar. But US economy is about $30 trillion. But have you heard about this whole climate change? Because of the climate change, the temperature is rising. So if they are talking about in compared to 1980s, if the temperature goes by 1.5 degrees, which we are going to face that in 10 years time by 2030, the real impact of that 1.5 degree increase is $54 trillion. ලෝකේ පුරා එකකින් වෙන පාඩුව අනිත් ප්‍රශ්න ගම් වතුර දාරකද මේක එන ඔක්කොම පාඩුව ගත්තොත් $54 trillion. That is twice the economy of USA. Okay, 3 degrees වලින් වැඩි වෙනවා, which is going to happen in 2050. The impact is $600 trillion, which is 6 times of the global economy. Nearly 6 times of the global economy. So අපි මේ 1 billion අඳාන ඉන්නවා, right? 1 billion හොයාගන්න බැරුව. If we can do something about the green world, we can create trillions here. So that's the power of a green world, right? But you have to come up with that innovation. Remember that innovation doesn't come in that easily. අපි කතා කරන්නේ මේ රුපියල් මිලියනයක් හොයාගන්න බැරුව ඉන්නවනේ. මිලියනේ මේ හරියට වැඩේ දැම්මොත් හරියට ප්‍රශ්නෙට එනේ ගහුවොත් හරියට you are talking about trillions of dollars. And that's why if you see Elon Musk, right, the richest person in the world, put 100 billion easily. 100 billion එකම දැම්ම. Not only him, but there's a consortium that they will fund, they will create that fund for this kind of projects. Then Boris, who is this guy, UK Prime Minister. Yeah, so he created a 100 billion fund in UK after COP26, right? And create a fund of 100 billion just for the UK innovations, right? Similarly, even Jeff Bezos came up with a fund, and all this area, if you look at, there's about $1 trillion already available for anybody who comes up with green world innovations. Remember, there's enough and more money. අපිට එකක් ගෙනාවා නම් මේ ලංකාවේ බිලියන ඩොලර් ප්‍රශ්නේ විසඳන්න පුළුවන්, right? That's the power of this area which we talked about, because everybody rely on this. මේක වෙනස් කරේ නැත්නම් අපි මේ ඉගෙනගෙන වැඩකුත් නැහැ. මොකද 2030 විතර in 10 years time we may not be able to live the way that we live today. 2050 වෙනකොට ඉන්න බැරි ඇත්තට. මේ මුකුත් කළා වැඩක් නැහැ. Right? අපි කතා කරන්නේ maybe not our lives, but our children, they will not be able to survive. And a lot of people even believe this is like a not really proven yet, but all these viruses that are coming out could be a reason of climate change. Of course, some say that it was built in a lab in China, but why these viruses are keep coming, right? Could be the climate change. We never know, right? Those are the things that we can do research. So through we got this idea because we saw this waterfall. We thought we should do something about it. We were, myself and my co-founder and the team behind were, technology oriented. So we didn't know anything about trees. gas ගැන මුකුත් දන්නේ නැහැ. I'm talking about 2015. Then gas ගැන සෑහෙන දන්නවා. In fact, I had a chance to do a session in Open University to the botany department also some time back. but that was the knowledge that I gained for the last 3-4 years. But I'm talking about 2015. I didn't know anything about trees. I'm coming from a pure electronics engineering or telecommunication background. Then what we did was we thought, because we know technology, let's do something out of what we know. So that's how we started in 2017. We started the Turu app. Now we have about 20,000 people using that app. We have about 50,000 trees planted in that app. The users, not only us, 20,000 people who have actually downloaded the app. 20,000 people have planted 50,000 trees. Then we created a lot of other things. For example, we created a seed pod, which we can even post it to anywhere. We have sold about 30,000 seed pods up to now. Then later we created this Turu.lk website. It's an online store. We have sent about 30,000 trees in the last 1.5 years to various places. Altogether, we have planted more than 100,000 trees with this organization. But our plan is not 100,000. We want to create maybe millions of trees in Sri Lanka. But what we really believe in is that if you bring technology into all this effort, we can create an acceleration to what we want to do. For example, in Sri Lanka records one of the highest forest deforestation, right? We call it deforestation. One of the highest rates in the entire world. It's about 6 to 7% in the last 25 to 30 years. It's one of the highest, right? So that's the issue. Sri Lanka is a green country, you can call it, because we have about 29% forest coverage. Saudi Arabia, but here we have 29%, but then we can't be happy of that. Because we are talking about one of the most unique biodiversities in the entire world, right? If you go to Singaraja, which I'll be there tomorrow from the Deniya side, we're actually going to plant about 50 acres just next to Singaraja. That's one of the projects of Turu. So what we are trying to do is we have to preserve that, right? Then 130ක් තියනවා කියලා සන්තෝෂ වෙන්න හොඳ නැහැ. 106 අවුරුදු 30කට කලින් ගියේ තව බිඳුවෙන් තව අවුරුදු 150ක් විතර තියෙනවා. එහෙම හිතන්න බෑනේ, right? What they say is if your forest coverage is below 25%, there will be irreversible damage to the biodiversity. That tree talks really high in Sri Lanka. ඒක තමයි ලොකුම ප්‍රශ්නේ. අපි දකින මීමැස්ස නැති වෙන්න පුළුවන්. අපි දකින සමනලය නැති වෙන්න පුළුවන්. අපි දකින මීමැස්ස නැති වුණොත් මොකද වෙන්නේ? මීමැස්ස නැති වුණොත් මොකද වෙන්නේ? ඕගොල්ලන්ට තමයි ගිහින් අර මල්ටි කාර් එකගෙන මලෙන් අත් කරලා මේ ගෙඩිය හදන්නේ ඕගොල්ලන් තමයි. right? එහෙනම් ගෙඩිය දෙන්නේ නැහැ. මීමැස්සනේ වැඩේ කරන්නේ අපි සතයක්වත් ගෙවන්නේ නැහැ. මීමැස්ස තමයි ඔක්කොම කරන්නේ. මීමැස්සයි සමනලුයි සත්තු කරන්නේ. ඒ සත්තු මැරිච්ච දවසට අපිට තමයි ගිහිල්ලා ගෙඩිය හදන්න වෙන්නේ. right? Nobody understand this. ඒ පෝර මේ එකක්වත් වැඩක් නැහැ. right? පෝර නැහැ කියලා නෙමෙයි. People won't be able to get any fruits out of plants, right? But what they say is if our biodiversity level, right, our deforestation level goes below, our forest coverage goes below 25%, that can create extinction of all these insects. So that's the danger. So we started this. Today, I'm not happy yet for what we have done. I have a plan of a lot bigger than this, but I can say that we have planted about 100,000 trees. The 3 or 4 people who went on that hike created that environment, and we supported to create 100,000 trees in Sri Lanka. And the good thing about our app is we have all the records of those trees. Then ගස් හිටවල විතරක් වැඩක් නැහැ. ගොඩක් අය හිතනවා ගහක් හිටුවොත් හරි කියලා. ලොකුට පින්තූර අරන් දැම්මට පස්සේ හරි කියලා. එහෙම නැහැ. More difficult part is you have to look after the plant, right? At least 1 year, 2 year, maybe even more. So this particular app has all the recordings. It's like a diary. You have to have everything recorded in it gives the transparency. So that's why we are bringing technology to support that effort. So going forward, we looked at so going forward, we were the same team actually was doing Turu. We used to do this particular project at Karadiyan. Why Karadiyan is famous? Lanka. Yes. Sri Lanka's biggest dump yard. Yes, that's the biggest now. 800 tons of garbage comes every day. Remember, 800 tons of garbage comes every day. Lorry 800ක් විතර එනවා 400 600ක් අතර එනවා. Every lorry carries about 1 to 2 tons. 800 tons per day. ඒකෙන් 55ක් kitchen waste. 30ක් විතර වගේ අනිත් දේවල්. තමයි ওই දෙකටම අයිති නැති කැලිත් තියෙනවා. right? Plastic වැටෙනවා 20ක් විතර වගේ. And all comes in one big bulk, right? separated මොකුත් නැහැ. separate වෙලා ආවත් අන්තිමේදී එකම මේක තමයි දාන්නේ. still is the same right. ගියොත් බලා ගන්න පුළුවන් right. ඔයගොල්ලෝ ගෙදර separate කරලා එහෙම දෙනවද? හරි. ඒ ඔක්කොම එක කොට තමයි යන්නේ. හරි. don't worry about that. so this we saw because we started doing a project to plant trees in Kardiana around Kardiana because what happens with the dump yard dump yard එකක් තියෙනකොට ඔයගොල්ලෝ ගෙදර යහපැත්තේ dump yard එකක් තිබුණොත් මොකද වෙන්නේ? කැමතිද ඉන්න? ගෙදර අල්ලපු වෙලේ dump yard එකක් තිබුණොත් මොකද කරන්නේ? හරි ප්‍රශ්නයක් නේ ගඳයි ලොකු ප්‍රශ්න ගොඩක් නේ ලෙඩයි ඔක්කොම වෙනවනේ. ඉතින් අපිට ඉතින් ඒ ඉන්න මිනිස්සුන්ට දෙයක් කරන්න බැරි වුණා. අපි හිතුවේ අපි දන්න දෙයින් let's plant trees around that dump yard. So at least trees will absorb some of the maybe odor or maybe it'll cover that to a certain extent. ඒක තමයි plan එක. We started planting trees. We couldn't do much. Of course, we planted about 75 to 100 trees around that. But during that process, we learned the whole problem, which we realized is a massive problem, this plastic problem, right? So then we thought, okay, and we have to do something else also. So the same team we got together, we started this organization called Zero Trash. The whole idea was, my co-founder Hasanka වැඩ කර හිටියේ ලංකාවේ ලොකුම කම්පැනි එක හොඳ ජොබ් එකක් කරගෙන හිටියේ රයිට් හොඳ ජොබ් එකක් කියන්නේ හොඳ ජොබ් එකක් කියන්නේ හැමදාම මාසෙක සැරයක් හොඳ පඩියක් එනවා මිනිහට මේ කොච්චර අප්සෙට් ගියාද කියලා මේ ජොබ් එකෙන් අයින් වුණා මොකුත් හිතන්නේ නැතුව ජොබ් එකෙන් අයින් වෙලා next day he went as a garbage collector. So this is the turnaround, right? This is what you call, if you really want to create innovations, this is the commitment that you have to do. This guy who was working in a organization in a very white collar job, he stopped the job මොනුත් හිතුවේ නැහැ බැඳලා හිටියේ wife ඉන්නවා wife ටත් කිව්වේ නැහැ අයින් වුණා හොඳලා ළමයි හිටියේ නැහැ ඒ කාලේ මේ ජොබ් එකෙන් අයින් කරලා මට කියලා දීපා මම ඉතින් කිව්වා මම පොඩ්ඩක් සපෝට් කරන්නම් කියලා ඊට පස්සේ he quit the job. He started collecting garbage from each house. Plastic. හැමදේම අපිට කරන්න බෑ. අපි plastic collect කරලා plastic recycle කරන එක ගැන හිතමු කියලා. So he did that, collected about 65 kilos of plastic into a lorry. Mainly PET bottles ඒවා ටික අරගෙන lorry එකත් හය කරගෙන lorry එට driver කෙනෙක් sorry එයාත් collect කරනවා තව collect කරන කෙනෙකුත් අරගෙන he went to Horana. There's a factory called Eco Spindle. They turn this PET bottle plastic into a yarn, right? And that yarn is taken by Hydramani and MS to do apparel. And t-shirt වගේ මහනවා එකකින් සපත්තු මහනවා Hydramani එකේ. So they gave it to them. And they gave it about, so he gave it about 65 kilos of plastic. He got 40 rupees per plastic. He got 2,600 rupees on that day. When he came back, he calculated the cost. It's about 8,000 rupees. So he has a business there, right? So then we realized he did it because he did it only. We realized what is the real problem of plastic in Sri Lanka. And of course, there's a bigger problem. People don't segregate. People don't reduce. හැම එක්කෙනා දැන් ඔයගොල්ලොත් මම හිතන්නේ කීස් එකට ගියාම අර මලු පහකට විතර බඩු දාගෙන එනවන්නේ නැහැ කියන්නේ පාර. එහෙමනේ තාම කරන්නේ. එන්න වට්ටක් එක කවර් එකකින් වහලා තියෙනවා ඒකත් ප්ලාස්ටික් එකක් ඇතුළේ දානවා. right? එහෙමනේ කරන්නේ. right? That's the way, right? People used to, we don't reduce. We don't reuse. That's the number one and number two. We අඩු කරන්න හදන්නෙත් නැහැනේ. තුන්වෙනි එක තමයි recycling. හැබැයි recycling කියන එක the last option. Even recycling, we have not really understood the real problem behind recycling. We don't segregate. That's one of the biggest problems. අපි ගත්තොත් එහෙම toothbrush එකක් වගේ ගත්තොත් එහෙම toothbrush එකේ තියෙනවා plastic ජාති තුනක් විතර. ඒක plastic කියලා recycle segregate කරලා වැඩක් නැහැ. There are about 3 different types of plastic. ඒක segregate කරේ නැත්නම් recycle කරන්න බෑ. Very difficult, right? And then plastic also, even if you segregate, somebody has to collect it and give it to a recycler, right? So that's what we started doing it, and then we realized that's a loss-making job. We spent about 8,000 rupees, we got only 2,500 rupees. So who's going to make money out of it? That's why our bottle patrakaarya avilla plastic bottle patrakaarya avilla parna yakada ගෙනියනවා. මොකද මේ දවස්වල යකඩවලට හොඳ ගාණක් හම්බ වෙනවා. ඔය පොඩි ටින් බෙල් එකක් වගේ එකතු කරනවා. වීදුරු සමහරට එකතු කරයි. ප්ලාස්ටික් එකතු කරනවා නෑනේ. අර බේසම් වගේ එකතු කරනවා. හැබැයි PET bottle දුන්නොත් එකතු කරනවද නෑ. ඒක කරන්න බෑ. It's a loss making business. So that's why we realized there's a problem that we need to solve. So Zero Trash we started. So then we went back to the drawing board. We created a model how we can collect plastic and at least break even. So remember, innovation is not about just creating a product. It could be even if you come up with a business plan or a business creation, we call it a business innovation, right? Or a model. It could be innovation. So that's what we created using zero trash. Of course, we have to prove it first. We spend our own money. We started collecting. So this particular person, my co-founder Hasanka, started the collection process in his backyard. For first 1 year, he was actually collecting all this plastic and put it in his backyard. So there were 2 tons of plastic behind his backyard. The plastic, you know, මේ අපි ගෙදර එහා පැත්තේ ගෙදර මදුරුවක් කෑවත් එයා තමයි පලි. මදුරුව හැදෙන්නේ ඒගොල්ලන්ගේම টয়ලට් වල වෙන්නේ නැති නමුත් complain එකේ ඉන්නේ යාට. හරි? You know that, right? 80% of mosquitoes building there in your own toilet dump. කවුරුත් හොයාගෙන නැතුණාට ඒක if you want to see that's the problem. The real problem is not the other පොල් කටු හැමතැනම තියෙන එක නෙමෙයි. සමහර අය කියනවා ගස් හැදුවාම ගස් වල මදුරුව හැදෙනවා කියලා. ඇත්ත පට්ටපල් බොරුවක්. හරි? එහෙම එකක් නැහැ. මදුරුව හැදෙන්නේ 80% of the mosquitoes, you know, breed on your toilet, that entire system, not only the pit, but the entire system. Not only maybe your house is okay, but maybe whatever the house is behind it. So if you have any single hole in that entire system, that will be a breeding ground for mosquitoes. That's where the mosquitoes breed. So that's the problem for you to solve, innovators. So we realized that, you know, this plastic problem is a massive problem, but let's take one problem at a time. And we selected this zero trash to solve the collector's problem of plastic. So now what we have is that we have a model that we can create, like we can collect plastic and give it to a recycler at break-even pace. So when we collect and when we give it, our cost is equal to the amount that we are getting. For example, it didn't happen overnight. First there was a 60%, 70% loss. Then we reduced down to 30 to 40%. Now then we realized if you want to do it, we have to have at least 10 tons of plastic every month. So we built our center in Borlaskama. Now we have a fully fledged center in Borlaskama. We collect, still we have not come up to 10 tons. We collect about 5 tons per month now. So when it comes to 10 tons, we are a break-even facility. First time in Sri Lanka. So if you get the break-even model, you can create similar centers all around Sri Lanka. And then we can totally solve the problem of collectors' problem of plastic waste. So that's what we are trying to do with zero trash. First center is now already operating in Borlaskama. Second center we are going to start in now Gampa. Third one we are looking at Kalutara side, and also we are looking at other districts also. But of course, there's an expenditure that we have to spend. So right now, myself and my co-founder also spending a bit, but he did a nice business pitching for a few organizations. And we got one organization, one of Sri Lanka's largest conglomerate, John Keys, actually supporting us in this first center. So entire, what do you call it, the capital cost is actually borne by them, plus certain operational costs also they borne by them, until we get to that 10 tons. So that's the model that we did, and we are pitching it to a few other organizations. And idea is to build about 25 similar centers in Sri Lanka and to collect about 300 tons of plastic every month. So that's our target. Right now we are still at 5 tons per month. Remember, 5 tons also huge. Plastic bottle so we have to collect about 30 to 40 of those to make it 1 kilo. අද මෙතන තියෙනවනේ එකතු වෙන්න ඇතිනේ ගොඩක්. මේ එකක්වත් කිලෝ එකක් නැහැ. ඔය ටිකම එකතු කරලා අපුණ දුන්නත් රුපියල් 35 40 හම්බෙන්නේ. right? දැන් මට කරන්නකොත් මම කරන්නේ නැහැ. මොකද වැඩක් නැහැ රුපියල් 35 හම්බෙන්නේ. මේ මහන්සිය තමයි. right? But we brought in a model that we can actually break even that model. So 5 tons කියන්නේ ඒක වැඩි කරන්න ඕන 5000. So we are collecting about 200,000 bottles per month as of now. So that's the amount of collection that we do. And of course, beyond that, we do other things also. We collect glass and few other things as well. So what you have to understand is, and this was actually started about 2019. So it's now it's the 3rd year almost. It didn't happen overnight. So that's why innovation, if you want to create a green world, it's more tougher, right? Because creating a green world is a much more larger, more altruistic motives as well. You won't see a lot of money behind these sustainable models. දැන් අපි තුමු කාර් එකක් අරගෙන කුණාගලෙන් කාර් එකක් අරගෙන පොඩි ඇණයක් ගහලා මේ පැත්තෙන් ලක්ෂයක් කියලා විකුණනවා වගේ ඒසියෙන් සල්ලි වන්න බෑ. හරි? ඒව කරන්න බෑ. ඒ වගේ දේවල් කරන්න බෑ because innovations especially in sustainability, right? In green world innovations, you won't get money overnight. But of course, if you really plan it, like what Elon Musk did, right? Elon Musk තිබ්බේ මොකද්ද? මනුස්සෙක් why he started the SpaceX. හැම මිනිහෙක් private මනුස්සයෙකුට මේ space එකට යන්න එකක් හදන්න හැදුවා. He wanted to send a man to wherever he wants to go on his own, right? It looks like a very ambitious and stupid idea. Right? Of course, he brought in that, save the world to all that. But what is his business case? What is the business case of SpaceX? Anybody? Well, I know SpaceX, now it's a 100 billion business. The value of that company is 100 billion. What are the businesses? He created a rocket that you can reuse. මෙච්චර කාලයක් තිබුණේ මොකක්ද අර ඉස්සර කාලේ ඉතින් අපි දන්න මේ NASA එකෙන් අපේ හැම රොකට් එකේ ගියා විතර ආයෙ එන්නේ නැහැ. ඒක මා යූස් කරන්න පුළුවන් රොකට් එකක් නැහැ. Now he created after failing 27 times, he created a rocket that you can go up and down many a times. It's a reusable rocket. Of course, fuel that you have to spend, but rocket is reused. Now all the NASA satellites are sent through SpaceX, and he had a deal. ඒ යවන හැම satellite එකේ මෙයාට පොඩි ownership එකක් තියෙනවා. Now SpaceX owns 1/3 of all the satellites which are orbiting now. Imagine the power of SpaceX now. It's a communication company. What he created was මිනිස්සු හන්දට යන්න නෙමෙයි හැදුවේ. හන්දට යවන එකක් කරන්න පුළුවන්. What he created is the largest communication satellites company in the world. 1/3 of satellites actually owned by SpaceX. So that's what I call ingenious business plans or business innovations. Even Tesla. Look at the car, it's a loke beraganna plan එක. ඇත්තටම if you why he started Tesla was he want to see every car on the road is a electric car, not a petrol or a diesel car, which is a super thing to do, right? But then he realized in 2006 he bought the company. Of course they call it co-founder, but he's not the co-founder. Co-founder was two different people. They are no longer at Tesla. He was the main man behind the business. Then he, in 2006 to 2016, he created a lot of technology inside it. And by 2016, he owned almost 80% of the best patents in the electric battery technologies. See, patents Tesla company. And in 2016, he did something remarkable. So this is what you call real innovations comes. Innovations, right? He said, I will give all these patents public, which he did in 2 years' time. In 2018, he gave all the patents public. Some patents have even another 10 years' time. He gave everything free of charge to everyone. What he said was, Tesla te vitarak me prashne isdanna bෑ. Mama electric cars hadala mage dream එක achieve කරන්න බෑ. මට ලෝකේ තියෙන හැම වාහනයක්ම electric car එකක් කරන්න Tesla ට විතරක් බෑ. General Motors උත් ඒක හදන්න ඕන. Toyota උත් ඒක හදන්න ඕන. Peugeot ඒක හදන්න ඕන. Benz උත් හදන්න ඕන. So I am giving my technology which I created with a lot of money. I am giving it to everyone free of charge. So everybody can now start creating electric cars. Now you can see each and every company globally creating electric cars. Some are actually as good as even Tesla. But now we can see a lot of electric cars coming out. So this is the thinking, the mindset about innovators. මේක මගේ මට විතරයි තියෙන්නේ මේ කාටවත් දෙන්නේ නැහැ කියලා කිව්වනම් ලෝකෙන් භාගයක් මිනිස්සු නියනකොට නැහැ. You heard about the Edward Jenner story, right? Edward Jenner, when he created the vaccine for smallpox, එයාට ලේසියෙන්ම කරන්න තිබ්බ $5 අරන් එනවා vaccine එක දෙන්න. මොකද patent එක මගේනේ. He said, no, I don't want any patents. I will give this entire knowledge to everyone to save the humankind. That's why maybe half of you are actually living here. And the ලෝක ජනගහනයෙන් භාගයක් විතර නැති වෙන්නේ because of smallpox වසූලිය. So that's the mindset that we have to create. But if you create that mindset, a real ප්‍රශ්නෙට විසඳුම හරියට ගෙනල්ලා ඒක පස්සේ යනකොට මිනිස්සුන්ට සල්ලි එනවා. ඒක බයන දෙයක් නෑ. මොකද about 2 years ago, Elon Musk had about only $10 billion. He was still 10 billion is big, but today is 300 billion, one of the richest ever. හරි ප්‍රශ්නෙට අඳුනගෙන හරි ප්‍රශ්නෙට විසඳුම කියන මනුස්සයර සල්ලි එනවා. ඒක අපි කියන්නේ අර wealthy people, real entrepreneurs are wealthy. හැබැයි සල්ලි පස්සේ ගිහලා entrepreneur කෙනෙක් වෙන්න බෑ. entrepreneur කෙනෙක් innovator කෙනෙක් වෙන්න නම් ඉස්සෙල්ලා ප්‍රශ්නේ අඳුනන ප්‍රශ්නේ විසඳන්න ඕනේ. සමහර ප්‍රශ්නේ විසඳ ගන්න මේ මනුස්සයා එච්චර පොසත් නැති වෙන්න පුළුවන්. But the day people, the whole world identifies the real solution. හැබැයි solution කියලා තමන් ළඟ තියාගෙන වහගෙන මේක මගේ patent එක වහගෙන ඉඳලා හරියන්නේ නැහැ. ඒක දෙන්න ඕන අපට. සමහරට මගෙන් නැති වෙන්නත් පුළුවන්. වෙන කෙනෙක් අරගෙන ඒක යන්න පුළුවන්. ප්‍රශ්නයක් නැහැ. He's also trying to solve the problem. මගේ ප්‍රශ්නයක් තියෙනවා, මගේ innovation එකක් තියෙනවා. ඒක මම කාටවත් දෙන්නේ නැහැ කියලා අංගන් විතර වැඩක් නැහැ. මගේ යාළුවා හරි එක අරගෙන අරන් දුවනවා නම් ලොකු දෙයක් නේ. So that's the mindset we need to create innovations. That sharing mindset. When you create that among Sri Lankans, we'll be one of the most innovative nations. Until you do, if you don't do that, you will never be able to see innovations. So thank you very much. I hope I didn't try to talk a lot on green world, but even to create a green world, you have to need innovations. But to create innovations, you have to create that very different mindset among all of us. That is why the world is at least surviving in this rate because of few similar mindsets like Elon Musk, to all these people that we now look upon. So thank you very much. I hope that we can see quite a few from Sri Lanka or Open University also trying out that way in the near future. So thank you very much. All the best. Thank you.